crystals in my pee. He's like, what on earth are you talking about? You have crystals in your pee? Like, what kind of crystals? The next time she used the restroom, she didn't flush, and she went to go get her dad, and she's like, there's crystals in my pee again. Come look. Wayne goes to investigate, and sure enough, there's tiny little crystals at the bottom of the toilet. Little stones. They're just sitting there. But also, her pee is a very strange color. It's like a dark, murky yellow color. It's not just a dark yellow, which would indicate that she's dehydrated, but it's murky. Why does it look like it would almost be thick? Wayne has no idea what's really going on, but he knows that is not normal, so he starts investigating. He even posts on this forum to ask for help, and some commentators, before reading the whole thing, they jumped onto the melamine. They're like, it's gotta be melamine poisoning. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it, doesn't it? But Mr. Wayne continued. He's like, I know it's a little strange, but I do have a strange habit. My whole family does. I'll buy a ton of milk powder or sometimes even baby formula for my 13-year-old daughter and even my elderly parents. Because in his mind, he's thinking, if you're gonna get all your nutrients delivered in a quick, easy fashion that you can keep up with it every single day, like a 13-year-old, like an elderly person, like they don't have patience, they don't have time. I mean, sometimes even the hunger to eat all that food that gives you all the nutrients, that's too much. So he just assumed milk powder or baby formula would be the healthiest. It's jam-packed with nutrients for growing babies. But he noticed there was a direct correlation between every single time his daughter would drink the baby formula and then she would have these debilitating stomach cramps and little pebbles in her urine. She would be screaming on the toilet because it started to hurt to urinate. And he said he was just confused because the only thing that makes sense after all this investigation that he's been doing is the baby formula. He even reached out to the company and asked, hey, do you guys have a recall for this baby formula right now? They said, no, but you should send us all your product. It was a very fascinating response. Now, originally when this gets posted, there were no responses. Like, nobody cared at all. And the people that did, they actually hated on him. They said, don't be posting these allegations about such a wonderful brand unless you know exactly what you're talking about. It could be a wide plethora of different things that could be causing your daughter's pee to have pebbles in it. It's not the baby formula brand. There were people defending this company, and this was probably one of the biggest companies in China of all time. Do you know the saying in the business world? It's called, you conquer the three deer. So in China, they call it the three deer. You conquer central China, or a large region of China, be the biggest brand there. I mean, that's already tens of millions of people because China is a huge, huge nation. Then you conquer the whole country of China. That's over 1 billion people. You be the nation's industry leader.
Book a cabin in the woods. That's a
You be the nation's industry leader. And then the third deer, the very last one that you have to hunt down and conquer, global domination. You conquer the world. Because if you can conquer China, you can conquer the world. Deer 1, conquer the region. Sichuan province, population 83 million people. How do you win the hearts of 83 million people in China? You could, I guess, if you sell baby formula, for example, or milk powder, you could lower your prices for a while, but that's not winning anybody's love or loyalty. It's winning their wallets for the moment. The minute that you raise your price to make higher profits, they're gonna all leave you. Or someone new is gonna come in and have even lower prices, and they're gonna leave you. You can try and create the most amazing advertising campaign and sign someone that's massive from Sichuan, a huge celebrity, try to be in their favors, but that's still not guaranteed, and it's going to be very pricey. I mean, you're talking tens of millions of dollars if you're looking at someone that has that much influence over 83 million people. Chairman Tian, one of the biggest executives in the dairy world, decided to wait for the perfect opportunity to strike. Instead of trying to force a whole region of China to love her, she would wait until they needed her. In 2008, the Sichuan region of China was hit with one of the deadliest earthquakes in human history, like we were just talking about. Out of the 90,000 dead, at least 5,300 of them were students in school. Another 375,000 civilians were injured. I mean, it was the 14th deadliest earthquake in recorded global history. Chairwoman Tian knew that right now is the time to win hearts. Right now is the time to win customer loyalty. So she very publicly donates $2 million worth of baby formula to the Sichuan Relief Fund during the earthquake. How do you not fall in love with a company like that? They stepped up when Sichuan needed them. They're not even from that region. So with that, they conquered Sichuan. They conquered the first deer. So they move on to deer number 2. Space milk. You conquer the nation. Population 1.4 billion people. Astronauts in China are the pride and joy of the nation. Chairwoman Tian knows this, so she lands a partnership with the NASA of China so that when astronauts go to space, it would be her powdered milk that they take with them. Her brand would be synonymous with space milk. If it's good enough for the astronauts, who are the pride and joy of the nation, it's good enough for the average consumer. You're not the one going to space. You don't need all these nutrients. But if it's enough for the astronauts to be out there with no fresh vegetables, no fresh milk, and they're drinking this and they're staying healthy in space? Through space, Chairwoman Tian won the nation, which leaves just one deer left. Deer number 3. The 2008 Beijing Olympics, global domination, population 7.8 billion. You win the Olympics, you win the world. I mean, not just in terms of gold medals, but if you land a sponsorship role at the Olympics, your brand is going to be seen by the entire world. But you could also take it a step further. You could also sponsor the event, but also supply all of the Olympians with your product. Not just from your home country, not just the Chinese Olympians, but every other Olympian from every other country visiting to compete. You are as close to world domination as it gets. Chairwoman Tian secured a deal to be the supplier of milk for the 2008 Beijing Olympics. She would host marketing campaigns. The Beijing Olympics were going to be held on August 8th, 2008. 888.
I didn't even know that was the number 888. It's the luckiest Chinese number.
The luckiest day, she would argue. And if you gave birth on that date, she would give you free baby formula. Just one box.
Really?
Yeah, but people wanted to do it. An earthquake, space, the Olympics. That is how Chairman Tian would become the queen of the dairy industry in China and take over the world. Wenhua Tian was not always the queen of the cows. That's what she was after the Olympics, but not really, okay? So before she was one of the most powerful female executives in the business world in all of China, she was just a vet on a small dairy farm. After graduating vet school, she gets a job at the Baijiao Happiness Dairy Cooperative, which at the time was basically like a mom and pop farm. I mean, you had maybe like 2-3 founders of the cooperative, and then you had 32 cows and 170 goats. You got more cows than you have employees. Tian was in charge of taking care of all the cows and the goats. And as she's caring for the cows, she's listening in on the founders talking about their problems in the business, and she realizes that this whole dairy industry in China is clearly not doing well, and she's got the solution. The current method that she's witnessing is milk farmer from a small rural region saves up money, buys a cow, then goes to source a healthy cow, purchases the cow, milks the cow, sells the milk to a big dairy company to do whatever they please with that milk, bottle it up, turn it into yogurt, milk candies, who cares, right? Technically, it makes the most sense. One business is the supplier, the other business is buying. But the demand from big companies to purchase milk is high, and the rural farmers' investment capital is low. Meaning, even if the rural farmers have the space and the time to have 10 times more cows on their farm to supply 10 times more milk and 10x their revenue, they don't have the money to purchase 10 times more cows. But the dairy companies do. I mean, all they got is money. So Tian decided she was going to raise capital. She was going to purchase cows for farmers and tell them to pay her in milk. The cows aren't free. The farmers will have to milk them and send them over, and milk will be the payment. So let's say per cow, you ask for, I don't know, this is a completely arbitrary made up number because I don't know the market value of cows. But one cow, let's say, is 10 gallons of raw milk. Once the farmer gives the company 10 gallons of raw milk, that debt is paid and that cow is theirs. Meaning any more milk after that will be paid by the dairy company.
That's really smart.
Yeah, it's technically a win-win on both sides.
Yeah.
Because prior to this, dairy companies would spend millions, if not tens, hundreds hundreds of millions a year maintaining their own pastures and milking facilities and hiring their own employees to go to these dairy farms. Like, they were in charge of admin, HR, everything. But now they're like, why don't we just buy a bunch of cows for the rural farmers and then just take their milk? They get a ton of milk in return, and farmers don't have to save up every single penny and go into debt trying to scale their farm and purchase more cows. Now, the small farmers, they also don't have the fear of going into competition against the big corporations. They feel like they're part of the big game. It's very low risk on both sides, or at least that was the initial thought. So Tian ends up taking over the Happiness Dairy Cooperative and rebrands it and appoints herself as CEO. She is the one who will single-handedly push this company to become the nation's largest baby formula producer. She implements her cow loaning system. Instead of like a house mortgage, you get a cow mortgage that you pay off in milk. She takes this company from being just a regular dairy farm to being on the Wall Street of China, Beijing Financial Street. Why sit there and milk cows when you can pay everybody else to do it and make billions? I would say that I have pretty medium skin when it comes to other people's opinions, but one thing that will keep me up at night is grammar, but specifically just on emails. Grammar in real life, I'm not such a stickler about, but if you correct my grammar via email, I will probably lose sleep over it. A few years ago, I actually avoided responding to emails because it gave me just so much to think about. It would take me like 30 minutes to draft a single email because I wanted to make sure that I don't come across unprofessional. But I've been using Grammarly for years, and it just makes my life so much easier. Grammarly is free to use, and it can help with just about anything, from corporate emails to school essays. It'll do spell check for you, obviously, but it also grades your text on correctness, clarity, and even engagement. And it'll give you suggestions on how to improve your text. Grammarly has this really cool advanced AI feature that makes it so that the text comes out exactly the way I want it to sound, with just a few clicks. I can choose from different formality and tone options. So for emails, I usually do formal, confident, and direct, but you can also add your profession and even which English dialect you speak, so your text really comes out true to your voice. It is such a game changer. And the best part about Grammarly is just how much time it saves me. I went from literally taking hours to respond to emails to just minutes thanks to Grammarly. And Grammarly's AI feature really makes it easy to respond to difficult work conversations. I even tell my researchers to use Grammarly because it just makes writing more efficient and more impactful. Plus, it's free. And the reason that I trust Grammarly is because data privacy and security are their top priority. Grammarly is the gold standard of responsible AI with 14 years of experience and just about every IT certification under the sun. So make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at grammarly.com/podcast. That's grammarly.com/podcast. Easier said, done. By 2006, she's created a massive corporation with hundreds of employees, if not thousands. They had shareholders. They partnered with New Zealand's Fonterra Dairy Cooperative, which is the world's 4th largest dairy company. And they became known as the king of the cows in China.
This is a name that everyone knows. The ads on TV is ingrained in your memory.
They became, one of the most famous household brands in the nation, to the point where their trademarked name became synonymous with baby formula. So some brands have so much power to their brand name that they can almost replace the actual word for the product that they sell. For example, Band-Aid. The word for the actual product they sell is a bandage. Band-Aid is a company name, it's trademarked. Or Kleenex is a trademarked name, the word for the product is tissue. Or chapstick, the word for the product is lip balm. So Tian took this company from being 32 cows and over 100 goats to monopolizing the powdered milk industry. And by 2007, the company was doing $1.4 billion in revenue. And she renamed it to help with the rebrand. It went from being a happiness cooperative to Sanlu, which translates to
3 deers.
3 deers. Conquering the 3 deers was part of her big plan.
That's so dark, because when you hear 3 deers, you don't think of conquering 3 deers. You
Like
think of,
hunting.
hunting, right.
Yeah.
You think of like 3 running deers.
Yeah, you think of like at the spring and they're drinking water, but no, she wants to conquer the 3 years global domination.
That's what she
basically.
said. Like, I want to conquer 3 years.
That's what the name means.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just inevitable that a few cows and a few humans, I mean, they're going to get hurt along the way when you're conquering 3 years. When you're going for global domination, sometimes a cow is going to get hurt. And the dairy industry in China at the time was a bit shady, and I think even in the US, even now, it's a bit shady. At this point in China, it was an unregulated time. The biggest problems that the dairy industry was facing were chemicals and additives being added to the milk to increase profits, and fake milk being sold on the markets. Fake milk, not like oat milk, almond milk, milk replacement, fake milk. There was a huge scandal with the baby formula company in China called Shein, not to be confused with the clothing company Shein. And they touted themselves as the superior baby formula brand that was entirely made overseas in the United States. They stated because all their products were imported and manufactured in the US, then exported into China, they're gonna be a bit pricier than the other domestic brands. It's like when you get French clothing imported into the US. But the quality, I mean, that's something that you're gonna feel. If not now, then you're gonna feel it later when your kid gets into the top schools in China. So after some investigation, it was exposed that Shein was never a US-based company. They didn't have a facility in the US or even an office. They never sold dairy products in the US. The company had zero affiliations to the United States of America. They were never registered with the FDA, which you absolutely must be in order to sell baby formula. The company address was some abandoned garage in the United States. It was never imported milk. Everything that Shein sold was manufactured in China, but marketed and lied as fake milk from the US. It was a complete and utter lie to charge Chinese consumers even more. The ones who could afford Shein bought Shein. The ones who couldn't afford Shein, they ate less, spent less, so that they could buy Shein. Or they bought the next best thing, Sanlu, which was half the price. Do you know how baby formula is made? They're made in these giant steel vats. They're these giant, I don't want to call them bowls. They have tiny little holes at the top like a submarine, and you stick mixers in. But the whole thing is just churning and mixing, and it's this encased giant steel tube, steel vat. They look like vans, that's how large they are. And raw materials like milk, water, filtered water, added nutrients, they all get mixed into this vat in liquid form to create a liquid blend. And then it's typically heat treated to kill all harmful bacteria. Then it's cooled down, held in secure temperature cooled tanks. I mean, these tanks are huge, you could swim in them, which you should never do, but you could. Now, testing is typically done at this stage to make sure that the batch meets the specified nutrition levels. And once it passes, the liquid is heat treated once more, and then it's transferred into this giant drying machine where it's turned into powder.
So it's like, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know it was like kind of a dehydration process.
And then you just add water and rehydrate it. Usually after it's dried, there's another testing process where the batch undergoes microbiological analysis, and it's not an easy process to make baby formula. Sanlu used this method to feed millions of babies every day all over China. They handle the production of the baby formula, but they need to purchase all the raw ingredients through their suppliers. So they gave all these farmers all the cows, and now they're like, hey, we need our milk, so bring us the milk. Think of them as like the chefs in the kitchen, but they still need to buy the supplies. Great. That's how it usually works everywhere. So where does it go wrong? The suppliers start ripping off Sanlu. That's where it goes wrong. Some farmers realized, look at how much Sanlu is making in the market. They wanted a larger cut of that. For Sanlu, they're getting better profit margins. The farmers should get better profit margins too. Since without the raw milk, baby formula would be impossible for Sanlu to even create. So farmers, they start mixing in water with their milk to make it seem like there was more milk by the volume so that they could get paid more. Sanlu catches on. They start measuring the milk by its protein content rather than its liquid volume to pay the farmers, because water has no protein. A big part of baby formula is the protein level. Protein is critical for infant survival, growth, and development, and milk is packed with protein. Now the farmers thought, if we water down the milk too much, then the protein levels decrease because there's no protein in water, then Sanlu will just pay us for the real milk that we bring in. So that's pointless, unless we find another loophole. The way Sanlu would test for protein in the milk would be to test for nitrogen levels in the milk. Nitrogen is a fundamental component of the building blocks of protein. So testing for that is cheaper and simpler than I think it's most people just test for nitrogen everywhere across the board for most food companies. So in conclusion, if the milk has a high nitrogen content, Sanlu believes the milk has a high protein content and pays the farmers more for the milk. So all they have to do is then take the watered down milk, and the farmers are like, we gotta inject something with nitrogen in it. Because that's what they're testing for. To bring up the protein levels, since the water brought it down, so to speak. So what's something that's cheaper than milk that's got high nitrogen content?
Some chemicals.
Melamine. Industrial chemical melamine. Not only is it super cheap, it's cheaper than milk, and it's got incredibly high levels of nitrogen. Melamine is 66% nitrogen, so adding it to the milk products helps it give a false result of high protein. It's also odorless, dissolves into liquid very easily, and it's a white color. It looks like baby formula. It looks like
whoever came up with that is
dead.
dead.
Well, sentenced to death. One of them.
What a crazy. Let me just throw something in baby powders. How could somebody come up with that?
So farmers, they start lacing their milk with melamine and then shipping it over to Sanlu instead of bringing in, let's say, 5 buckets of fresh, clean milk and getting paid for 5 buckets. They could now bring in 10 buckets of watered down milk. That's still 5 buckets of milk, but add 5 buckets of water, inject some nitrogen into it, and get paid for 10 buckets, when all they really had is 5 buckets of milk. Now the question is, did the executives at Sanlu know this? I mean, I guess you could argue that for a while, perhaps not, maybe. You could argue that if you wanted, I guess because Sanlu themselves would argue that the Chinese government did not, at the time, require food to be tested for melamine, you could argue that they didn't know that Sanlu's baby formula products passed the regulations and the quality test. One of the top executives bragged to the public nonstop, this is about a year before everything implodes, that they are the only company that has over 1,100 steps to check the quality of the baby formula. Their tagline was 1,100 rounds of quality tests, care for the baby's health, worthy of mother's trust. The vice president would always say in interviews, the quality of our baby formula is what keeps babies alive, and it keeps Sanlu alive. It is our bloodline. CCTV, which is China Central Television, the state-run news network, had a segment where they investigated this 1,100 steps claim. They sent reporters out to Sanlu's farms to see what was going on at the first link of the food chain. So obviously, the Sanlu employee stated, oh yeah, I know everything about each cow's background. I know who their family members are, because we're trying to keep cow income here. Each employee of Sanlu on the farm had a health tag to ensure that nobody came to work sick. I mean, this seems like the type of company that you would want to buy baby formula from, right? So where does it all go wrong? How long does it take to take down $1 billion company? 100 days. Day 1, Dr. Zhang is sitting in his office at the hospital. He's staring at his patient list, and none of this is making sense. I mean, the past 10 days alone, he's treated countless kids with the same strange problem. Every new patient room he enters, first of all, he doesn't even work the ICU. It doesn't make sense. Every time he entered a new patient room, it'd be the same thing. A mother holding a swollen baby, about 6 to 11 months old. The baby's belly is rock hard, and it looked as if the infant had swallowed a full-size watermelon. The infant looked pregnant. Their heads were swelling. It's described as a slight ballooning of the foreheads. Just something wasn't right. The moms would cry out, please, you have to help me. He hasn't peed in 10 days and I don't know what to do. In days? What do you mean he hasn't peed in days? Yeah, he hasn't peed in days. When was the last time they peed? Maybe a day or two ago? Maybe like 5 days ago, honestly, but there was red blood in the urine and that's why we rushed over. Dr. Zhang tries not to show his panic, but this is very alarming. This is very deadly. If these babies are unable to pee, their bladder could rupture inside of their bodies, and that doesn't sound too dangerous to some people, but it's deadly. That's why they tell you to pee before you start driving, because if you get into a traumatic car accident with a full bladder, and in that accident your bladder ruptures, the urine leaks into your insides, that's all toxic waste. You're gonna die very quickly of an infection. But typically, when you are a baby, one of the biggest things is you just pee. You don't have the ability to hold your urine, so the fact that these children are unable to pee to the point that it's risking their lives, to them almost dying, I mean, it was terrifying. So Dr. Zhang is on high alert. One swollen baby, that's a strange case. Two swollen babies, he's getting concerned. By the fourth swollen baby that day, Dr. Zhang is starting to feel very unsettled. He's sitting there in his office, lunch untouched. In his 23 years of being a doctor, he had never seen so many children at risk of dying from kidney stones. That's what was causing this. Kidney stones. Have you ever seen one of those cold press juicers? Yeah, okay, so not a blender that you just stick fruit and vegetables into and then you mix them up together and like a blade crushes them up. It's more of a mechanism that you put the vegetables through. It's like a hydraulic press, and it's going to separate all the liquid out and the rest of the stuff. So you get the skin, the peel, the pulp, all separated to one container, and then the pure juice on the other side. That's how the kidneys work. So your blood runs through the kidneys, they take out any particles, any toxins, and then they send it into the bladder to be peed out, and then now the clean blood circulates back into your body.
Ah, that makes sense. I see.
Your kidneys are a cold press juicer.
Like a little filter.
Yes. Maybe the easier comparison would be that your body is a city, and the kidneys are like the water filtration facility. It filters all the bad stuff out of the blood, and then it sends it to the bladder, which is storing the wastewater until it's peed out. But sometimes the water treatment plant starts having difficulties filtering everything out because maybe there's too much calcium or minerals that are sticking together and then hardening and then not enough water. So you get these little clumps, stones as they call them. They get stuck in your urinary tract, and once you have one, it's like a snowball. More minerals are going to come rolling down and then start sticking to it, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
And kidney stones are very, very painful, right?
Yes. Okay, so the word stone almost has this implication that it's like a smooth stone. They're more jagged crystals, so they can actually cut up the inside of your urinary tract as you're trying to pee it out. That's the best case scenario, is peeing it out. The worst case, well, the best case scenario is that you don't get them. The second best case scenario is that you get small ones and then you pee it out. But it's still very, very painful. But once the stones are too large to be able to pass on without causing bleeding or kidney damage, or won't, for whatever reason, pass through your urine, you have to get them removed. It's not really something that you can stall. It's because if you don't remove the kidney stones quickly, you're gonna notice that you can't pee at all. It's blocking your urine stream, so you're gonna want to pee. It's not that you suddenly lose the yearning to pee. You're gonna want to pee. It's just gonna be painful. It's gonna sting. Nothing's gonna come out. You feel like you're gonna explode because the kidney stones are blocking the flow of urine. It's not only described as being such a unique type of pain that it's almost borderline sadistic, they say, it's also very dangerous to have kidney stones, because if your kidney stones are blocking your flow of urine, your bladder could explode. So you have to get these kidney stones removed. Typically, there's 3 ways to do it. 1, medications or shockwave therapy. This is wild. Doctors can use shockwaves, or like strong vibrations and sound waves, to break down your kidney stones inside of your body. This is non-invasive, typically, and they will break into smaller pieces and then pass through into your urine. Or the second way is that the doctor will send cameras into your urethra, so like through your pee hole, into the bladder and to the kidney stones, and once they locate it, they will usually have lasers attached to these small tubes, and they'll laser the kidney stone to break it up. And then hopefully you'll pee it out. You have to be under general anesthesia for this type of process because, I mean, obviously it's going up your urethra and it's going to take a few hours. Or the third method, this is probably the most invasive. They have to cut a small hole into your back, because that's where your kidneys are. They're closer to your back. And they will send a thin, flexible tube to break into your kidney and break up and remove the stone. It is the most invasive, but it is the most effective when it comes to removing a very large, stubborn kidney stone. And with this type of procedure, you typically cannot even go home the same day. You're gonna have to be under general anesthesia for quite a bit of time. Now, I know one of the first things that I do when I hear about these types of medical situations, I'm like, oh, okay, I have it for sure, right? But no,